Hey, what's up, guys? RC3 here, RC3 Podcast, and people have been, messaging me like crazy, asking me to review the debate that happened this past Saturday with Jake Vargas, goes by the name Jake Var, and Amanda Elise Salas. And this one got heated off the bat. And as you guys probably already know, I had to kick Jake Var off the set because he was being a douchebag and he was being an asshole and he was being disrespectful. And listen to me when I say this, nobody disrespects me in my house. Okay. So did I go too far? You guys tell me, write it in the comments. Did I overreact? Should I not have ragdolled him the way I did? The funny thing is that night he posted a small clip of the show, and he titles it, your boy Jake Var. This is not the exact quote, thrown out by gay lib. And then everybody started mentioning. I was like, man, like that's the angle you want to go? Like that's the angle you want to do? Like if you put me and Jake side by side and you ask random people who's most likely to be gay out of these two, 10 out of 10 people are saying the John Connor lookalike, Jake Var. That guy's definitely gay. They're not gonna look at me. Guys, I used to be a conservative, okay? And I'm not saying that conservatives and liberals look any different, but I look more like the stereotypical conservative than this guy does. So, but the funny thing is that the next day he had a live and he changed it from gay liberal to leftist loon or some cliche ass, insult like that. So, like I got the debate on sped up at 1.5, okay? Because it's about an hour long, and we got about 30 minutes here to review this real quick. I'll occasionally pause it to give my commentary on it, some of the crazy shit that's going on back and forth. Like you'll see right off the bat when I play it that the Jake comes in and tries to be overly adversarial. He's in performance mode, which is cool. Like I respect that grift, right? Like you want to come in and you want to like play up, but when you start telling people to shut the fuck up and disrespecting the guests that I have, by taking like little shots, it gets to a certain point when you warn somebody and you tell them, hey, that's gonna be the last time you do this, and they don't. It's like, all right, bro, you gotta go. And so that's what happened to poor old Jake here. So look, I'm gonna play this, and you guys tell me what y'all think. Did I overreact? Let me know in the comments.
Horrible thing that happened, especially when it comes to children. The pattern that I've seen, especially when it comes to a lot of these shooters, is that, especially when it comes to Democrats, you guys want to blame the guns. One thing that I've noticed is that anytime there's a mass shooting or type of shooting, it's like we need to get rid of guns or limit them to California law types of things where it's so difficult to get a gun, etc. Right? From my perspective, it's all horrible. I hate it. It is what it is. Right? The last time we saw shooting prior before that was the Uvalde in San Antonio, right? That was near San Antonio?
Yeah, near San Antonio.
Now we noticed that, especially because of the mental health stuff that we've seen, this last shooter we saw was apparently a transgender individual. And I've noticed that when it comes to the transgender community, there's a lot of mental health issues amongst that community. We saw the Tennessee, I think it was Nashville, I believe, right? With the last shooting that we saw, they usually target Christians, Christian churches, Christian schools. I think there's a big reason for that. I think there's entirely bigger reason. As RC said in his opening statement about how politicians are talking about their thoughts and prayers, I think that's very important to turn to God on those prayers. And I know Democrats want to throw it out the window because at the end of the day, Democrats are, let's be honest, they're a bunch of atheists. They're a bunch of godless individuals.
Thoughts and prayers don't bring back dead children.
Well, neither does like taking away all the guns. Like we're gonna have these things regardless of that. And if you want to say, well, thoughts and prayers don't bring back children, that's not the goal of that. It's a mourning period. You do realize that. Well, hold on. You do realize that with these parents are Christian parents, right? These are individuals that were in the church. They are faithful to the religion. When you sit there and say, fuck your thoughts and prayers, that doesn't bring back your kid. That's spitting in the face of a lot of these Christians, right?
Well, I mean, what's the argument for the people that were shot in Target last week, or the kids that were shot in Uvalde a few years ago?
Yeah.
I understand that thoughts and prayers are really important. And
you kind of don't, because you did say like fuck your thoughts and prayers. I'm saying Democrats in general. This is the narrative that's doing that. But you did say thoughts and prayers don't bring back your family.
Because thoughts and prayers don't.
Great, and that's what their narrative is too. This is a talking point that I've already heard here.
Hold on, let me finish. At the end of the day, thoughts and prayers will not bring back a dead person. So let me finish. You guys going for a while. My turn now.
Well, I let you finish. You didn't let me finish.
So now we've got thoughts and prayers as like a main action point for politicians. Never mind the millions of dollars, Democrat and Republican, that are getting paid every political cycle to uphold gun laws that their constituents to the right, to the left, gun owning or not, agree with. So that's what the issue is. It's not that the thoughts and prayers don't count. It's that the thoughts and prayers become the #1 action point for anybody who's upholding the Second Amendment. It's not let's go do X, Y, and Z. It's like, here are your thoughts and prayers because that's the only thing I have to offer you because I'm bought and paid for by the gun lobby.
But you would acknowledge that we don't elect representatives to give us their thoughts and their prayers. That's what churches are for. Right? We elect them to do a job. We pay them with American taxpayer to do a job, to legislate, right? So shouldn't the thoughts and prayers be at the synagogue? Should they be at the churches?
So let me respond to that really quickly. So this is an entire straw man. Again, when it comes to my argument here, I'm saying that these people are mourning, okay? And when you're saying throw your fucking religion out the window, I think that's...
So again, here, just to interrupt real quick, I'll get back to it. But as you can see, the tactic here, the strategy is to reframe it as if we are saying, you know, people in the middle or in the midst of mourning, you know, fuck their thoughts and their prayers. Or the thoughts and prayers of people's private lives and what's happening around their communities, that doesn't matter, as if we don't know that religion, Christianity, whether, you know, Islam, you know, different religions to different people, different cultures here in the United States means a lot. And it is a source of solace, and it is a source of you know, refreshment, and it's a source of a way to be able to cope with traumatic events. Jake understands that we're not saying fuck Christians, as he said a little earlier, or that we say fuck their prayers as if we're trying to be insensitive to what's happening in their personal lives. What we're saying is, what we don't like is when thoughts and prayers, it becomes a means, when it becomes a substitute to do nothing by people who we pay to legislate. I don't pay Ted Cruz for his thoughts and his prayers. I don't pay Hot Wheels for his thoughts and his prayers. I don't pay, you know, Paxton for his thoughts and prayers. I don't pay any of these leaders that we have in our state of Texas. And that's, you know, I mean, you can expand that throughout the country. We don't pay these people for the thoughts and prayers. We pay them to get off their ass and legislate, provide for the public safety. I mean, you're seeing the arguments that we've been getting, you know, with Donald Trump and, you know, in his bringing in troops into Washington, D.C., into these places, is that the government is responsible for the public safety. That's how they're justifying it. Yet we can't hold our governments here, state and local, responsible for public safety, for the public safety in our schools, for the safety of our children. In this case, thoughts and prayers are sufficient. But when Donald Trump says there's too much crime in D.C. and people are dying, oh, what about thoughts and prayers for those people? No, but it's only when it's convenient. It's convenient, we legislate. When it's not convenient, when we actually have to do something hard, thoughts and prayers. And Jake understands this, but he's being obtuse. And let's go on with it.
Disrespecting the Christian religion. And again, Christians get stepped on by you atheists and you Democrats.
Well, tough shit.
Hold on, bro. Let me respond here. I know you guys want to interrupt, okay? But hang tight just for a bit. But what I'm saying is that when you have the church and you have people that are Christians, and I know you don't respect the religion, and you say, well, your fucking thoughts and prayers don't bring back your kids. I would say, yeah, but that's not the argument here. Okay, I'm not saying that thoughts and prayers.
And just again here, just real quick, he's framing the argument like we're antagonistic to Christianity, as opposed to the politicians that use Christianity to further their own means. In this case, not do a damn thing. And this is so disingenuous and so dishonest. And it's a debate tactic that he probably learned from El Quinchinchit and Rob Noor, who I debated about a month ago. These are tactics that are used over and over again by Andrew Wilson. Later on in this debate, actually, you're going to see these same tactics deployed, right? Amanda's going to bring up a subject, right, or an issue that happened, and then Jake starts digging. Well, you know, basically trying to expose that she doesn't know every little detail about the policy that she brought up. And again, these are tactics to derail the general point into this minutia. And because you'll know this minutia, it undermines your entire point. So let's go back to the debate that we were going, because it's just getting good, guys. I mean, this is, you ain't seen nothing yet.
Belong in legislation, right? So or anything like that. What I am saying is that when you spit on the religion and say that these Christian children that were targeted by a transgender, who, by the way, the ideology alone hates Christianity. Democrats have pushed this ideal that thoughts and prayers don't do anything. Christianity in general. I'm not arguing with you.
But now you're playing victim,
bro.
So now it's for me.
RC. Am I arguing with you or am I debating here?
It's my show.
Okay, so I guess it's 2v1.
It's my show.
Right,
and so what I'm saying is this, right? Is that you're playing victim now. So
I'm not playing victim, bro.
So the argument has gone from these kids to porous Christians.
No, dude,
thoughts and prayers.
Hold on.
We're not talking about Christians.
Listen.
We're talking about legislators with power.
I was talking about Christian thoughts, and I was talking about mourning, RC. I'm talking about mourning. When you guys say, fuck your thoughts and prayers, I don't think that's very good to have these parents move forward from their kids being murdered.
What the parents want is action.
So hold on.
Yeah, fuck your thoughts, fuck your prayers.
Okay, great. And I'm saying that is a bad move to move forward.
Okay, so at that point right there, it was clear to everybody in the room, and it was clear to everybody who was listening exactly what we were talking about. It's not hard to understand what we're talking about. We said it clearly over and over again. We're talking about politicians. In my opening monologue, if you watch the entire YouTube show, which you should because it's fucking awesome, I was poignant and I was talking about politicians. Now, this little dishonest move to make it seem like we're talking about everyday Christians. How dare you talk about Christians like this? You're playing victim, bro. You're playing victim. Everybody sees right through it. It's not impressive. It's not edgy. It's pathetic. And you know this over the top fucking concern about you're saying fuck your thoughts and your prayers. No, we're saying fuck your thoughts and your prayers when it comes out of the fucking people like Ted Cruz and Hot Wheels. I don't know how many times I got to say this. This is why churches exist. This is why synagogues exist. This is why religion in general exists. And listen, here in my neighborhood, there's one on every corner. Okay? Thoughts and prayers are for the pastors, for the deacons, for the elders. They come, they do their thing. That's their lane. Okay? I hope I'm being clear. I don't want thoughts and prayers from fucking Tacuache Ted Cruz. Okay? That's not what we want. We want you to get your ass into the chamber, and we want you to do something about it. Public safety. You're so concerned about crime. Here we go.
It comes to
how is it a bad move?
So I'll tell you why. When we have, you have mental illness. We have mental illness.
Let's start a Columbine where we got thoughts and prayers. Just recently, Uvalde, thoughts and prayers. And now you're coming on here and saying thoughts and prayers.
I never said that. I'm talking about the mourning, bro. Okay, do you legitimately understand? Do you literally do not understand the concept of mourning? Christian people mourning in general, that we do need to turn to God, especially when it comes to mental illness, where we have entirely transgender shooting up Christian churches. People, hold on. I'm arguing with him now because he wants to get involved with this. When you have several people,
on my show, and he's like, "How dare the host want to fucking get involved?"
No, well, at the end of the day, you brought me to you want to get involved now. I can only debate one person at a time here.
You're not talented to debate two people at once.
I'm doing it right now. What are you talking about?
Well, get on with it.
So really quick. So when I'm talking about prayer.
So he gets on his feelings because the host of the show, myself, is trying to host the show, trying to lead the conversation, and he's getting all up in his feelings. So early on in the podcast, he was getting very emotional. Reminded me a lot of liberals that I know, a lot of soy boys that that can't control their emotions and are all up in their feelings, and they're making arguments. Look, this entire argument isn't based on feelings and emotions. Oh, my feelings, you're saying fuck your thoughts and your prayers. My feelings are hurt. It's all emotion. It's all it's all just dog shit, but at least he's making it interesting. He's making it fun. So let's see how this continues to go.
In general, yes, I do believe that the vast majority of America are Christians. This is just true. The vast majority is Christians. I do believe that religion helps people move forward, especially when it comes to tragedy, especially when you have a church in this latest shooting where people do need to turn to God and pray for their mourning. This is something that's always done throughout time. It's something that's there. When you guys go there and just spit on it and you want legislation, cool, we can talk about that. I'm simply talking about the mourning part, and that Democrats and you
again, bro, ain't nobody spitting on anything. That's the way you're taking it. Again, because you're emotional and because you can't contain yourself.
Liberals are spitting on the graves of these Christian children by saying stuff like this, okay? And then you have her and yourself saying, oh, this is a tragedy, these kids, blah, blah.
And think about that. Us liberals are spitting on the graves of these children by not falling for the bullshit of useless politicians that use the term thoughts and prayers as a substitute to not do anything. We're the problem, according to people like Jake Vargas. We're the problem. It's us, the problem. The ones that are calling out the politicians, we're the problems. How dare you not fall in line, liberals? How dare you not fall in line and just go along with thoughts and prayers? Like me, Jake Vargas. How dare you not fall in line?
But then you spit on the religion. That's all I'm saying here. Okay,
and it's a complete dog shit argument.
It's not a dog shit
That's
argument.
why I say it's complete dog shit argument, and it was a dog shit argument. Anybody watching this knows it's a dog shit argument.
Talking about the morning part.
And Jake knows it's a dog shit argument.
Okay, now let's go into legislation now. Okay, I'm fine with that. I'm separating.
So now he wants to go into legislation when that's what we were talking about to begin with.
These two, which you're not. All right. So I'll tell you this, when it comes to this type of rhetoric, I would say we need to focus on the mental health of America. Bingo. If you look back 15, 20 years ago, you notice that school shootings and shootings in general were nowhere near as high as they are today.
Greg Abbott has continually cut funding from mental health across the board. So has President Trump. So have people across the board, from local all the way up to federal. Like
they cut it all off? Okay. What has he cut off exactly?
He cut
what
off.
Exactly has he cut off?
Oh, okay. I don't know this.
Oh, you don't know what it's up.
No, but I mean,
you're making claims, but
no, I'm not making claims. We can Google this.
Hold on.
And
tell me what are the exact. I want it from you first.
He cut funding. He cut access to funding
for
mental health care to rural.
What is mental health care exactly?
I believe it was like access. I think it was like access to clinics, and then
clinics of what?
Mental health clinics across Texas. I believe this happened in the last 6 months to 12 months. That Governor Abbott vetoed and he got rid of. And in our big beautiful omnibus bullshit bill that was just passed, they cut access to Medicaid and Medicare, and there
has nothing to do with mental health. Let's talk about Greg Abbott. Hold on, let's talk about Greg Abbott here.
Mental health access was cut through access to the Medicare and Medicaid cuts that they just made in that. Mental health access.
Okay. So just as a quick hold on. In 2022, Governor Abbott cut approximately $211 million from the budget of Texas Health and Human Services Commission, the agency overseeing mental health programs, redirecting much of that funding to border security and National Guard operations.
Okay.
The reduction came shortly after the Uvalde school shooting, a moment when Abbott was calling for improvements in mental health care, which critics pointed out was at odds with the cuts he enacted.
Okay, great. So if Greg Abbott did cut that, I would say I don't know the details on that. That's why I'm asking you. What exactly did they define as mental health? Was it
access to mental health care?
What exactly?
Okay, so I just want to show you guys how if there wasn't an available fact check to be able to confirm what Amanda was saying, Jake would have gotten away with saying, you don't know what you're talking about. You can't name me the specific program, the specific amount of dollars and change that was taken away from there. Therefore, your entire point is void. And then I want to focus and concentrate and hyper-focus on the fact that you don't know what you're talking about, you liberal. You're just lying. This is a tactic that Rob Noor used it. He used it on me, and like a dumbass, I fell for it. This is a tactic that Andrew Wilson uses. They like pop quiz you on every single aspect of the thing as if they know. But at the end of the day, they don't know. It's just a distraction tactic. And you could say, well, if you're going to bring up that point, you should know every little thing about it. Maybe. If it has to deal with the like solid point you're making, then you should know the details, obviously, right? But when they start digging down, and I'll give you an example. When I made the point that President Trump and Doge had gutted the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and he asked me by how much was it gutted, and I told him around 80%. Well, the truth is it was about 90%. But he then used that as a means to try to say, well, if you don't know the exact number, then why are you making this case? And again, it's a complete dodge. It's a complete, it's these arguments, these tactics, disingenuous. And that's what Jake was trying to do right now. But when you have a system where you're doing live fact checking, it's hard to get away with that kind of shit.
Exactly was the mental health? Was it depression? What was it?
I mean, from what I understood, it was clinics in rural Texas and clinics in low-income communities, just general mental health care,
counselors,
psychologists, and behavioral health centers, I believe, were the three top ones that were going to be losing funding across the state.
What was his reason for that?
No, I don't know the reason behind it.
No,
I don't know the reason.
See, there he goes again.
Budget, I don't know.
I know that the money was directly reallocated to the border wall, which I'm trying to figure out how border wall funding fights kids getting shot up in schools.
At the same time, you do realize we had 10 million encounters at the border, right? Well, hold on, but because you mentioned the border.
Where the money went.
No, I didn't ask that. You said it went to the border.
And I'm taking. What did he do with the money?
No, I didn't say that.
What was the reasoning behind it?
Yeah, I said what was the reason.
We don't need to, ma'am. Okay, none of that.
But you didn't answer the question.
So he sent it to the border wall in an effort to fight
and stuff like that. Okay, great.
To secure the
so
border.
okay, so he made some cuts to fund more the border wall or the border security, which fentanyl obviously was killing millions and millions of Americans. Yes, a lot of fentanyl was coming through the border. You can acknowledge that, right? That we had a lot of drug issues here, that people were dying because of the drug issues, right?
I can acknowledge that they're at the ports of entry is where we're getting the biggest.
But
fentanyl.
Okay, great. So fentanyl was an issue. So now that I know, okay, maybe that was the issue there. The money's on a budget, so he felt like let's cut down some of the healthcares, etc., to go to the border, right? That would be a matter of perspective, but I don't know the details on that, so I can't really argue. Don't know exactly on that. But however, let's stick with this. The mental health issues, I would say, especially when it comes to transgenders, okay? Can you acknowledge that that's a mental health issue, right? Gender dysphoria, etc., and we see time and time again.
We'll get into transgenderism in a little bit, but
no, hold on. This is relevant to.
I want to say the issue.
Hold on. This is according to the psychologist book. I forget what the letters are of the big psychologist book that they have. The psychologists and psychiatrists have been using for a long time. So it is not considered a mental health disorder. So
gender dysphoria.
If I'm following what the professionals.
Yeah, but you do realize gender dysphoria.
I am not.
What year did that book come out?
I answered you asked the question.
Well, you said because of this book, therefore I don't believe it. What year did that book come out?
I believe what mental health professionals have continue to say.
Yeah, what year did that come out?
How this is not a mental health issue.
Yeah, but what year did that book come out?
More
or less.
I don't know.
So look, I fact checked you on that because that didn't sound right to me. And so, but
So again, there's that tactic again. She mentions the book, and she can't name it off the top of her head. Look, bro, that's the kind of shit that happens in the middle of a debate. You're not going to remember every single fucking detail, dude. Like, we're not encyclopedias. And she mentioned the book, and she couldn't name this. Actually, the book is called the DSM 4 or 5, and I mentioned it right now in this fact check. But like, then he goes on to ask her, what year did that book come out? Again, dude, like, again, this is just fucking debate bro tactics that when they're done right, they could be effective. But Jake just doesn't know how to do these debate tactics. He sees Rob Noor do them and Andrew Wilson, and he tries to imitate them, and it just ends up looking like a desperate way to pivot out of the current conversation because he's getting wrecked. And unfortunately, in this case, he's getting wrecked by a female. I don't know if I mentioned this at the very beginning. When he actually showed up to the studio, I introduced him to Amanda, and the first thing he says, "I'm debating a woman." And everybody kind of looked like, man, this guy has some fucking mommy issues or some shit, right? Like, I don't even think from the times that I've talked to Jake Vargas that he even believes a woman should be allowed to vote. So like, the ideas are super regressive. They belong in the 17th century, but here we go.
This is a current professional consensus of the American Psychiatric Association in the DSM-5.
DSM, that's what I was thinking.
The current diagnostic manual used by psychiatrists, being transgender is not classified as a mental disorder. What is recognized is gender dysphoria.
Yeah, gender dysphoria.
This refers specifically to the distress or impairment.
Look, I'm going to forward it a little bit.
Discomfort of the gender and
because
straight men.
Hold on, really quick. Hold on, this is gaslighting. She was saying Mexico doesn't have this, but Mexico don't have a fucking vast majority of white people in the fucking first place. So obviously it wouldn't be white men killing kids in fucking Mexico because there's not white men there. It's Mexican men that are killing children in Mexico, obviously. So this is gaslighting. She was saying Mexico doesn't have this, but Mexico don't have a fucking vast majority of white people in the fucking first place. So obviously it wouldn't be white men killing kids in fucking Mexico because there's not white men there. It's Mexican men that are killing children in Mexico, obviously. So this is gaslighting here. But I'll tell you this. Hold on. Man, listen, man.
So at this point you can see Jake's already starting to derail. His style, his argumentation is already starting to look pretty unhinged. So it only gets further unhinged, and it only continues to derail as the podcast goes on. I'm trying to forward this a little bit so that way we don't go too long.
Look at the cartel that runs Mexico in general. Okay, so again, what I'm talking to you right here, you want to say it's the white straight males that are the problem here, right? You're saying white straight males are the biggest issue, issues here, okay?
They're 95% of mass shooters since 2018, and if the number one killer of children in America is gun violence, and the number one perpetrator of that gun violence is white straight males, and that tells you the number one perpetrator in America is white straight males.
So what is the hold on? Listen.
I have a question. Your first point about the number one killer for kids ages 1 through 19 is firearm-related incidents. I'll look up the white male part.
So really quick, so you want to say, okay, it's white straight male problem, okay? So let me ask you this. What's the percentage of white straight males or white males here in the United States? Obviously, the United States, it's 65% white in general. So you're going to have a vast majority of white straight males, right? So what's the correlation here of the percentage of white straight males here in the United States and how many of them are actually committing mass shootings?
I mean, I didn't go to school for math, so I don't know what that number is, but...
How many in the last, 5 years?
485 of the mass shooters since 2018, and that's a good number because I know only 4.
No, mass shootings is a different definition because gangbangs, hold on, gangbangs in Chicago are considered mass shootings. Mass shootings would be three people or more that were injured or murdered, okay? So if you want to count mass shootings as a generality, Chicago, black people, hold on, listen, black people, man, really quick, black people in Chicago actually commit more mass shootings in general if you want to add up what mass shootings are. So therefore, we need to talk, if you're claiming purely on school shootings, That's the question I'm asking you.
For sure, over 80% of the people that have committed school shootings have been white males.
Okay, and again, answer my question here. How many of that percentage is compared to the population?
Just a real quick factor here. In U.S. public mass shootings, the race of perpetrators varies by study, but data from the Rockefeller Institute and National Institute of Justice shows white perpetrators make up the largest proportion, followed by Black, Hispanic, and Asian individuals. Specifically, the Rockefeller Institute data from 2020 to 2024, last 5 years, indicates white individuals account for over 50%, 57% of public mass shooters, while the National Institute of Justice's 2022 database of public mass shootings found 52.3% white, 20.9% Black, 8.1% Latino, and 6.4% Asian perpetrators. But that just could be because of the majority.
Yeah, no, definitely on the majority. But I'm saying, like, if we were to counter or we were to describe mass shootings as 3 or more, and I'm talking about school shootings, children in general, this is schools only. That's what we're talking about, not mass shootings. Because, like, again, gangbangs in Chicago happens all the time in the weekend. I'm asking you, what's the percentage on that? I would assume, and we can probably agree, that it's a tiny percentage of white people that are doing this, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, like,
a tiny percent.
yeah,
But you said it's a white straight male problem, not a mental health issue.
Just for clarity,
That was school shootings. That was school shootings. Okay, so it's a small percentage here, right? Again, my question is,
Yeah, I'm gonna forward this a
correlate
little bit,
these
guys.
things, you're saying it's a white. Like, for example, women that post their photos online, they're getting dopamine hits, you know, et cetera, et cetera. I think that we're living in a time where young people.
So to hear real quick, Jake actually starts making sense here. And, you know, I was trying really hard to be fair. Because, yeah, man, like, I got my views are a little bit more liberal than Jake's. But Jake's way the fuck out there, too, man. So I think any normal person is liberal compared to Jake. And here he was actually saying things that made sense. He was talking about the mental health issues. He was talking about, you know, the way technology, you know, particularly phones have affected, you know, females, particularly younger females. He was talking about, you know, the dopamine hits from social media. All of these are things that are just true factually. And so I was more than happy to agree with him there. So all the hostility and all the aggression, it was really for naught, because they both agreed on the main points. Amanda agreed that there's a lot of mental health issues. Jake came in off the bat trying to make it seem like school shootings were a trans issue, which is just a stupid fucking take to have on this issue. Just retarded. And so Amanda had to come in and say, well, if it's a trans issue, then why are you conveniently ignoring the fact that all these motherfuckers are, the majority of them are white and straight, which again is completely factual. But liberals aren't, at least any that I've seen, are out there making that this is a white straight male problem. Well, you know, actually, there are a lot of retarded liberals that say that kind of shit. So I don't want to, you know, eat my own words on that one. But if you're going to come in and make those kind of dumb arguments, then they're going to get countered with equally absurd arguments to just show the absurdity that you're, you know, putting out, right? So fast forward to this part, Jake actually gives that up, you know, gives that part of his argument up. He concedes it. And he starts saying, well, look, there's a lot of mental health problems, right? Amanda then counters by saying, well, yeah, if you think it's mental health, then why the fuck is Governor Hot Wheels stripping away millions of dollars in mental health funding and mental health programs? And then I proceeded to fact check and say, yeah, it was true. $211 million were taken away. This happened right after the Uvalde shooting, right? So that leaves Jake here with an empty sack in his hand, you know, trying to recover because he got hit with a 1-2 fucking punch and he doesn't know how to, he's on baby giraffe legs. And so he has to come back with something factual and something that makes sense. Jonathan Haidt has a book called The Calling of the American Mind. And I'm not sure if it's this one exactly, but he does talk a lot about how technology and how social media has affected the psyche and the psychology of a lot of youngsters. Okay. And just to give a quick stat, around 2007, 2008, when the iPhone came out and when social media was becoming more widely available to young people, mental health just fucking went off a cliff. You know, and they take, you know, for example, they take ER reports, you know, of, you know, suicide attempts and a whole bunch of different data points to be able to establish that. And so Jake is absolutely 100% right about this. And so he goes from making complete sense to, again, just derailing his own argument. I mean, it's self-inflicted wound after self-inflicted wound. And he tries to cover it up with just like over the top theatrical aggression and acrimony. And it just doesn't work, man. It just doesn't work for Jake. It doesn't work for Jake in particular, but you'll see for yourself.
Especially young people don't necessarily know how to handle the dopamine hits of the internet and online interactions. I think this is an uprising depression, uprising anxiety. Not only that, glorifying anxiety. The email movement was one thing, and it's already gone to the point where being depressed is almost cool these days. And I think we need to address that. I don't know what policies exactly we could do without infringing on freedoms, but I think this is the issue here. And I think like with the programs that we had with mental health wasn't working prior. So cutting that, I don't think is a big issue on that. I think we need to focus on what our children are consuming. Pornography, 11-year-olds. Yeah, no, it does. 11-year-olds, the average of porn that kids are watching pornography is 11 years old. You can go ahead and look that up. That causes also mental illness.
So you said right now that you don't think that cutting access to mental health.
I don't think it's a big factor.
Hold on. You don't think it's a.
And by the way, I also agree with that. You don't fucking give cell phones to a 9-year-old or to a 10-year-old and just let them do whatever they want with it. They're going to get into porn. They're going to get into all of these psychologically addicting situations. Parents, if you're doing that shit, be fucking better, because that is you're shooting your own kids in the foot, man. You're saddling them with all of these future problems that they're going to have. And oh my God, man, when I hear stories of parents who are giving their kids, their 7-year-olds, 8-year-olds, phones with just unfettered access to the internet, I think to myself, what the fuck, man? What is wrong with you? But parents are doing it, man, and they're doing it to just fucking not parent. It's easier to give your fucking kid a cell phone and to just, go sit on your ass and, watch the Dallas Cowboys lose. Here we go.
Big factor in that, and I just want to clarify before I finish, is it that you don't think that cutting access to mental health funds will make the situation worse?
I don't think it will, because if you look at our mental health programs, we're always having school shootings. It didn't really.
I have a few questions of thought. So if one of them is a scenario, and one of them is, I really don't know what the statistics are for this one. Scenario, if you and your family are known to have predisposed medical conditions, but you can't do anything about it, you're going to get sick.
It's the last interruption, guys, I swear to God. But it's so hard not to interrupt, because every time Jake opens his mouth, something absurd pops out, and it would be, podcast host malpractice if I didn't call it out. So Jake's entire argument is based on the fact that school shooters have mental health problems. He says that in one hand. And then in the other hand, he says, but it's no big deal that the Republicans are cutting mental health care funding. I don't know how the fuck you're able to look at yourself in the mirror and and make that argument without fucking with a straight face, without chuckling at yourself as if to say, I'm fucking with these people, I'm trolling these people. But Jake does it, and look, if you can see by the shot in this film, he's not even cracking a smile. He's holding on to that poker face, but I know deep down inside he wants to burst out laughing and he's probably thinking to himself, God, I can't believe I'm getting away with this.
Do you think cutting access to the local clinic where you get your free access, you think that that's like the right move because you're not getting sick?
Well, again, it's a small percentage of individuals that do school shootings, right?
So
I'm not saying to cut it all off, but I see where you're coming from. But what I am saying is that
I can see the way you're saying that maybe it wasn't helping, because I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with a lot of these points that you're saying, like that the mental health care that we were getting wasn't working if we were having, and I don't disagree there, but the idea that getting rid of it isn't going to make things worse is such an illogical
No.
Use it in a medical,
and I would agree. I think that's a dumb argument, which I didn't make.
So the other question I had, remember I said I had a scenario in there.
Go for it.
So you said that we've always had the guns, and I will agree with you there. I wonder what, and I don't know the answer to this, I'll premise this, right? I wonder what the access young people have had, and I'm sure that we can blame it on the internet, social media. I don't disagree.
I think that's a big issue.
Because I don't think that back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, when gun violence was not an issue the way that it is now, I do not think that people had access to the guns that they have now, whether legally or illegally.
Do you know how many guns are in the United States?
I don't know what the number is.
It outnumbers the population by a lot. And even in the 60s, it was the same thing.
But I just wonder what the access young people had. And I don't know if this is measurable, but I wonder, because I don't disagree that we've always had access to the guns, and back then we didn't have school shootings. So something's not happening.
I agree. Something there that I think we're not looking at.
And so I don't disagree that mental health, access, reformation, all that stuff is a way to go. But I think most gun owners and most logical Americans are asking also, yes, we agree about the mental health thing, but can we also cauterize the bleeding? Maybe can we just address this giant wound of all of the continual access to insane amount of ammunition? Now, I'm not saying don't get rid of it. I'm not saying take away AR. I'm not even saying databases. That's all I'm talking about. But comprehensive gun reform, if we have to wait on getting our driver's license, if we have to wait on getting a CDL licenses, if barbers have to wait, if police officers have to wait a little bit, it just doesn't make any sense why we don't have some sort of...
They already have that, though.
I hear you, but...
Like in California, if you look at a lot of these blue states, it's actually really difficult to get the guns right away. Like they go through a massive background check. They do this in California, Detroit, a lot of these blue state areas. Texas is the one state where you can get it right away. And I'll agree with that. But if you look at a lot of these blue states, it's very hard to get a gun. Very, very hard. Very difficult. And there's a lot of... hold on, but here's my point here. But if you look at a lot of these blue states, when you come to like Detroit, Chicago, LA, where it's really difficult to get a gun, but yet they have the highest crime rates and gun rates over there.
They're not getting it legally. We're not getting those guns
But the
legally,
point,
illegally.
yeah, but that's the point. Do you understand that putting all these restrictions don't actually stop the crime?
Oh yeah, no.
So why would putting, but why would putting like
But-
California or
but
LA's
you
gun
think-
laws on Texas would stop it if we see in other states where it's not doing that?
There's proof with every single one of these mass shooters when they find their manifestos, when they do their research on them, they find out that, and this was the question I was going to ask you, if we're in the same vein, we're agreeing about the mental health stuff and how there needs to be like more reform with that or whatever, well then a proposition, it would be like, would you agree that maybe people that have been flagged through law enforcement with mental health crises be put in some sort of database that is also flagged for when they want to go buy a gun? Because the reason I say this is because there's facts with almost every single mass shooter, school shooter, and when we go back and we look, we find out that their access to the
It
guns.
kind of depends.
Jake,
So let me ask you
All
this.
of that. But the reason why I bring up the comprehensive gun reform is because that can at least cauterize some of the bleeding. It can at least pause some of these people from getting access to these giant weapons of mass destruction and going and slaughtering. That's what they did in Uvalde.
Yeah, in general.
The way that they described the scene, it looked like they used a weapon of mass destruction. I know it's not, but that's what it looks like.
Yeah, I get
So
you.
I understand that comprehensive gun reform is not going to fix all, but when you have regular gun-owning parents and victims of these crimes both saying the same thing, can we at least cauterize some of this bleeding and address mental health? Both can happen in the same.
No, I agree with you.
I think where a lot of people are coming from with this is that we just want to cauterize some of these people that are getting it. They're getting the thousands and thousands of rounds of ammunition because there was a lax law, or maybe a law enforcement agent brought them in and flagged, but then there wasn't a law that said that they could hold them the way that there were laws in other states.
Oh, I love the passion. I love the passion from Amanda. I love it. But I will tell you this, like, I love your ideas there, but these are already being applied in blue states, right? And if you look at these areas, blue cities, the crime rates are massively higher. The mass shootings are massively higher.
So the answer is do nothing.
I'm sorry, ma'am. I thought it was last thoughts for me. Hold on. Hang tight.
The answer is
You-
no.
Let me finish really quick. But when it comes to your idea, wouldn't we just apply all these restrictions on guns just like they do in blue states, and that will mitigate the bleeding? When we already see this with blue states, and it doesn't. It actually makes it worse. And we see the crime rates in Chicago, Detroit, Baltimore, LA, New York City, all run by Democrats and are very restricted on gun laws, and we don't see the bleeding restricted at all. You look at Texas, yes, it's a lot more looser, but if you look at it, the crime rates, the gun rates, etc., they're nowhere near on these other blue states. So I'm saying, look, I understand your frustration on that, but what I am telling you is that when it comes to this type of thing, we need to address the core issue here, which I believe is the dopamine hits that a lot of young individuals have, which is social media, alcohol, marijuana, a lot of these things, single-parent households, which is a rise since the 1960s when we didn't have shootings, and it's an uprise now. And I think when you look at the prison rates, where they're raised, the vast majority of prisoners are raised in single-parent households by single moms. I think it's something that we need to address, and I think it's something we need to acknowledge in order to solve a lot of these mental health crises that aren't necessarily caused by the guns or stipulations of transgender, which also is on the rise. I think we need to address a lot of these issues in order to mitigate that.
Just goes up. There's a lot that you said there that I agree with. You should start off with that because
I need to start it off with the transgender stuff because he was the shooter there.
So yeah, but single parent households, I agree with you. Social media. Jonathan Haidt has a book that's called The Calling of the American Mind that says that around the time of the iPhone, and they document this, that a lot of mental health for our children went down the drain.
By the way,
and it's specifically for women.
Can I tell you this, by the way? The equivalent of an individual being on social media and getting the likes and the comments and all that shit is the same dopamine as drinking this fucking beer right here.
Right.
Might as well give the fucking liquor cabinet to your child because it's the equivalent of that.
Well, letting your kids have access to social media is a death sentence.
It's a death sentence.
Crazy. But you know, Amanda, there's a lot that you said that I agree with also, right? There's a lot that I feel like we have to do as a country, right? We have to address mental health, like Jake's saying. I mean, that's just a fact because it is deteriorating. And it's deteriorating fast. Like this last shooter, I don't know if you guys heard about this, but it wasn't just that he was trans. He was like this amalgamation of everything that's wrong with the internet.
I would agree with that.
He hated brown people. He hated black people. He hated Trump. It was just.
I just want to pause real quick to just give myself a compliment. You are one sexy motherfucker. Proceed, sir.
It's like this cesspool of like everything that's wrong with the internet. Like this guy was literally an AI bot of, like I said, everything that there was one of the cartridges that had skibbity in it.
Isn't that a fucking toilet?
Yes,
Shit?
it's for-
That's weird. Have you
for
seen that
kids.
video?
No.
Oh, it's so satanic. It's so
And
crazy.
it's for kids. So,
Yeah,
so
it's for
like I'm saying, like this guy was just everything that's wrong with the internet. It's just an unsupervised child.
Did he buy that gun himself or you took it?
That
I have to look into that.
You know,
Details are still coming out.
Yeah, last I heard, he acquired the gun.
So let's forward this a little
We're
bit.
also the heavyweight champions of all kinds of like mental disorders. Our culture is deteriorating. It's deteriorating fast.
Yeah, same thing with the UK. I mean, UK is the champions of stabbings because they don't have guns. So you have mass stabbings as well.
Yeah, but stabbing.
So, yeah, it's mitigated. I agree with that. But I would say that it doesn't stop the criminal of committing crimes then. And they've already tried banning knives because of that. And banning other things. Banning things doesn't deteriorate criminals.
But if you had a kid in school, would you rather have the perpetrator with a knife or with an AR-15?
With a knife for sure. Yeah. It mitigates it. That was my point there. But I will tell you this, man. I do believe that good people with guns stop bad people with guns.
And I think
And especially there's a reason why the shooters target schools is because it's a gun-free zone. You never see a shooter target gun ranges because there's people with guns there.
Somebody of public service job to do. They are a good guy with a gun and they don't do anything to stop.
Yeah. Well,
I want to get on to the next subject because
Shooters you gotta look at after it happens, unfortunately, you and the dead. Did they have any mental health issues on record?
And a lot of them do.
that's what I was going to ask. Like, you were saying, like, we need to do restrictions on, like, mental health, right? Would you consider depression to be a mental health?
I guess let's move on. We got so many stories. I feel like when Trump's president, like story after story during the
Oh,
week.
Biden was the same thing.
Yeah, these motherfuckers have a saying. It's called "flood the zone." Flood the zone. And Steve Bannon says you got to flood the zone with bullshit, so you throw the media off the scent.
I am on a liberal podcast, so it's 2v1 right now.
That's actually no, but that's
Blame
actually a
victim
tactic.
again. Typical,
It is.
typical conservative.
It is, bro.
Stone put in for the Republicans, and that's an actual tactic that Republicans have been doing.
So a big topic of discussion this week has been the National Guard rolling into DC and possibly rolling into Chicago. I'm assuming you're for that, Jake?
Yeah, well, as far as stopping crime in these major cities, yeah. I am.
Or as far as a pretext of stopping crime?
Yeah.
Amanda?
I just think it's such a waste of resources. I mean, we have local law enforcement, there's state law enforcement that can take care of their own. And when you have the mayor of Washington, D.C. coming out and boldly standing opposed to these servicemen that are just trying to follow orders that don't necessarily know what they're doing there, it's a gross overreach of power, and I think it's definitely going to be, it's being used as a tactic to see how America's going to respond, to see if they can keep doing it in other spaces, and they're doing it in spaces that are mostly black and brown because they know
that's a higher crime rate.
They know that America overall just doesn't really care about black or brown communities. The media doesn't, the government doesn't. They're trying it in these spaces because they know that there's not going to be an
I'm going to speed this up a little bit more, guys.
In a few weeks, in a few months, they're going to be doing it in other spaces. He's already deploying active military to several other states, and has been in communication with several other governors, and some of them are resisting, some of them are keeling over. Like our lovely governor-in-chief is the only nice thing I have to say about him. But I just think it's such a gross overreach, just a waste of resources. If there's actually things that they want to be doing, if they're so concerned, there's other places in the country where these active military can be deployed. And if these governors could show proof that they needed assistance, despite the fact that most of these law enforcement agencies have been getting more money, it just doesn't make any sense. If they're doing their job, if they're good law enforcement agents, why do we need a National Guard to go in there and police them when it's not even in their jurisdiction? It just doesn't make any sense. And if you talk to National Guardsmen, they're wondering what they're doing there too.
Yeah, well, she made a lot of claims there about National Guardsmen and like these people, they don't know what the hell they're doing over there. But if you look at a lot of these law enforcement and many people there that live in those communities, they can acknowledge that they have a crime issue. Washington, especially over there in Washington, they have big crime issues over there. Chicago, a lot of these areas that Trump is going to target next, he's targeting areas where it's high crime rates. And well, hold on, let me finish.
Washingtonians as a whole are against this, like by 70%, that they're against the move.
Yeah, so let me finish my thought really quick. So
address that though.
Okay, what was your question, Devin?
No, I said that Washingtonians, when surveyed by 70%, are against.
Surveyed by who?
By conservatives.
Yeah, no, I'm asking questions. Yeah, liberals, they never actually have their sources.
So when it's sourced, okay, so pretend like everything I'm saying is true.
Okay, let's just say 70% are like they don't like that Trump is coming in here stopping crime. Or stopping
crime rate in Washington D.C. and Chicago, since you're going around crime rates and talking about how liberals don't know what their sources are, and you were bringing those up. What are those?
Yeah, I don't know the exact crime rates, but if you look at the top 10 cities, it will tell you that the top 10 cities that are the highest crime areas is St. Louis, Washington's.
And so there, I thought that was super funny. So Amanda pulls the same debate bro trick that Jake had been using on her. She pulls it on him, and she, he's bringing up, like how crime is so bad. And so she asks him, well, what's the crime rate? And he doesn't know, right? Because again, dude, like, I don't blame Jake for not knowing the exact fucking amount of crime in, random blue state. Nobody has this. I mean, Ben Shapiro, maybe Charlie Kirk, Destiny, Pisco. They study, they fucking marinate in this shit all day. So they probably know every individual fucking stat. Most average people like us, we're not going to know every stat. That doesn't mean that the overarching point that we're making is not the truth. And so, like, again, bro, like, she kind of gave you a taste of your own medicine. And maybe after that's how this conversation just fucking, just went off the rocker. But I guess, make up your own mind.
Top 10, Houston, which is also in the top 10, Baltimore, Detroit, etc. Which are, yeah, exactly. Well, you can look it up in here if you want to know the exact statistics compared to right-wing areas, right-wing cities.
So according to LIB-BRO, 79% of DC residents oppose presidential effort to federalize the city's police. It was more than I thought. 65% believe the federal intervention does not make the city safer.
So your statement was that the local people see that there's a high crime rate and they want this, and there's facts that show otherwise.
Yeah, go ahead and look at the crime rate.
8 out of 10 say fuck no.
Yeah, look at the crime rate of Washington, D.C. exactly.
I'm surprised you don't know that off the top of your head.
Well, I wasn't prepared for this debate exactly, so I gotta.
So the question is like, at what percent? Let's just say like, as a general rule, at what percent? Roll in the tanks.
Hey man, Amanda didn't do too bad in this one, man. She was spicy. She was giving him his own.
Like for you, at what percent is the crime too high that we don't have in the military? Is it 50%?
Yeah, no, I would say definitely if it's in like the high 10%, so like maybe 10%. Yeah, 10 or around the 8-10%. That's high, bro.
You know the highest crime rate in the nation is red state, Memphis, Tennessee.
Memphis, Tennessee? No, that's governed by liberals. The state in general is red state. Yeah, red state. Yeah, it's like Houston's running Democratic. State general, right?
I'm not going off statistics, I'm just going off common sense. If there was anywhere where Donald Trump could deploy power, it was Washington, D.C. Nowhere else. Like, he couldn't do the same thing to Chicago. He couldn't do the same thing to LA. I think it's just a test run to see what he can get away with. Yep. And while it's within the District of Columbia, he really can't do anything to him. So whether crime is high or low or anything, that was going to be the testing ground.
Would you say that since he's deployed the National Guard over there and we've seen crime lower down over in those areas, would you say that's a good thing?
Crime there has been lower out in the last 30 years?
No, it hasn't.
Yes.
No, it has not.
Where?
This is
Washington, D.C.?
Yeah, but
it hasn't been going down.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that it's still a high crime rate over there. Okay, if you look at the murder rates over there since Donald Trump has been deployed over there with the National Guard, you see murders already going down there because they're looking for criminals, etc. But I'm saying, isn't that a good thing?
Crime has been down 22% in 2025. So before the National Guard was deployed, violent crime had already decreased by 2 digits.
Yeah, by how much crime?
22%.
No, but what was the crime rate prior before that?
Homicides by 34%, robberies down by 20%, carjackings decreased by 24%.
What was the crime rate overall? Go ahead.
So according to justice.gov, violence in Washington, D.C. peaked in 2023. Violent crime is down 35% in 2024, which is a 30-year low. And
30-year low.
Thank you. That's what I said.
Through early 2025, homicides are down 16% from 122 to 103. Assaults with dangerous weapons are down 18%. Robbery is down 31%, and total violent crime is down 27% from.
Was that after Donald Trump's?
Nope, that was all before 2024.
No, he said in 2024, but in 2025.
Isn't it the case though that crime went up during COVID and it's going down everywhere? Or like crime as a whole is going down all across the country.
Yeah, so you can establish that's COVID, right? Is what you're saying? Factually, yeah. No, I get to that. But what I am saying is that I don't see a problem with Trump deploying the National Guard into high crime rate areas compared to the country, and going after these criminals in general. I don't see the problem with that. I know you guys do. My question to you specifically is that what would be the issue of deploying the National Guard to stop criminals and helping out the police departments in those areas?
Because the police departments aren't asking for their help. The police departments
So you're saying because they're not asking for help, therefore saving lives is irrelevant?
I believe in respecting the agencies that are on the ground doing the hard work every single day.
So
if they are going, and if you have local police and they need additional help, they call the state police. If they need additional help, then they call the federal police. But if they're not calling on people that are in their jurisdiction, what makes me think that another outside agency that has nothing to do with that community is going to know how to respond to crime in a way that makes sense for that community? I'm going to sit here and I'm going to trust these agencies that have been serving.
So why would you trust the National Guard to do their jobs, to go in there and
take
take
down?
That's
not the job of National Guard.
Well, hold on.
Because that's not the job of the National Guard.
So you're saying
the job of the National Guard is at the president's disposal. That's not what the National Guard's job to do.
When it comes down to it, if you look at
you can memorize
no, I'm saying this.
Remember my name.
I'm saying
Amanda.
I'm sorry, Amanda. Ma'am, Amanda. Listen really quickly. What I'm saying here is that when you have Trump distributing the National Guard to these high crime rate areas in these cities, and they can take down the crime rate lower, what's the problem there? You're saying it's because they just didn't ask for it? You're saying because they didn't ask for it, so therefore. But hold on. How would it be? Hold on. Listen. So if you have people dying, okay, and then the National Guard comes in here and lowers that rate, so you have less people dying, and you're saying no, that's the problem because they didn't want. Because they National Guard being there. Show me the statistics. Tell me. Come on. You seem to want us to know where it is all the time. So when it comes to murder rates, and you see the last few weeks, and they already have less murders, actually no murders in the past 2 weeks. Go ahead and look it up on the government website. I just gave you a source right there, man. So again, yeah, but when you look at Washington and the murder, look at the murder rate specifically.
Low, right?
How many murders have decreased since Trump has initiated the National Guard?
Based off of the past 2 weeks, right?
That's exactly
yes. Well, dude, that's what we're judging it off of.
In August 2025, President Trump invoked the D.C. Home Act to federalize the Metropolitan Police and send in hundreds of guards and federal agents. He stated crime is out of control. While crime was already at record lows, over the past 2 weeks, violent crime has fallen 50%. Carjackings are down 85%, robberies are down 42%.
In 2 weeks? Those are the statistics in 2 weeks?
In 2 weeks.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying. What is the problem that Trump distributes to these people and it lowers it down even more?
Okay,
like, why would you, but your argument, but my problem
I'm conceding to your point. That what is the harm in that? What's the harm?
That's my question.
In that same vein, what's the harm in keeping the mental health clinics open in Texas?
Yeah, but you're changing the subject.
No, it's the same concept. It's the same concept.
No,
it is
you're pivoting. Ma'am, you're pivoting. Ma'am, you're pivoting. So again, what is the harm? No, it's not, because we agreed on that already.
No.
Yes, we did. We talked about the mental health issue. I'm talking about the crime. Hold on, we're talking about Trump. She's literally pivoting to the last subject.
You said that you did not think that closing the mental health clinics was going to make matters worse. You just said that you didn't think closing mental health clinics in Texas was going to make shootings.
So again, okay, so I guess we're going to have to go back to that argument. And I said, no, the reply to that, ma'am, no, you can't. No, you can't. That's stupid. It doesn't apply. We're talking about the crime. Again, what is the harm? What is the harm that Donald Trump brings in the National Guard and less people are dying, less people are getting carjacked, less people are having their issues, crime being established? What's the harm in that, ma'am?
Because that is not the job of the National Guard.
So then you don't have an answer to what's the harm. So the harm is that because it's not the job of them, therefore we should let it happen. That's what I'm saying.
So in this case, so not only has crime gone down, but just overall people going out in general has gone down. Restaurants aren't getting frequented. The restaurant, they're down by 31%. People who are going shopping. Bars are down by the same amount. People just aren't going out. So like, I mean, there's effects to go around on both sides, right? So you could get crime down to fucking zero if you put a soldier in front of every house. I think the point is that we don't live in that kind of country. We don't live in a police state. You could get rapes and murders down to zero if you invite the military inside your house.
I don't know about that.
That's true too. The point is,
keep agreeing with it.
The point is,
her argument for you.
But the point is, like, I'm asking you directly.
I know.
At what point do you say, okay, I got some security, but I'm giving up a whole lot of liberty? Benjamin Franklin said he was willing to give up a little bit of liberty for security. Deserves.
So let me reply to that, bro. So again, when you're saying these monologues, and I get you there, you're like, oh well, it's liberty.
It's not a monologue. It's true,
America. Can I reply? Can I reply?
Don't downplay it, though.
Hold on, I kind of am because you're upplaying it right now.
No, because that's literally
it's not because Trump is targeting the highest crime rate cities, bro.
Why is it in red cities?
You asked the question. Where do we draw the line? That was your question.
Why is it in red cities?
Bro, your question was where do we draw the line?
No answer.
My question
is,
why
is it on the jury?
I'm sorry,
bro, can I talk here?
Well, ask the question.
Yeah, let me answer it, please. Shut the fuck up and let me answer it.
Hey, fuck you.
Let me answer it, bro.
First of all, don't come up here with your fucking bullshit.
So you're not gonna let me answer the question?
Get the fuck out right now.
You're not gonna let me answer the question?
Understood.
Are you gonna let me answer the question?
With enough respect.
So you're not gonna
shut the fuck out of here.
All right, this guy's here. You're not gonna shut up and let me answer the question.
Excuse me. You're my fucking house. You speak with respect. Or you shut the fuck up.
So there we have it. Raleigh's being triggered right now. All right, for this question.
Okay, so I'm gonna get you the fuck out of here.
There you guys have it. I'm getting kicked out because the LIB-BRO podcast is in its name. Hey, he's literally attacking. Hey, don't touch me, bro. Fucking respect. You're my house. Touch me, bro. You're my fucking house. Touch me, bro. You. Get the fuck.
Okay, so there is where the entire show derailed, and so as you can see, like as the podcast was approaching its conclusion, it seemed to me like, and I'm trying to be objective here. Like I know it's my podcast. I know I kind of manhandled him as I was taking him out. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. No, but objectively speaking, you can already start to see that as the fact checks were coming in, and as he was getting hit with them in real time. Like he didn't know how to react to him. He looked like he was getting overwhelmed, and and as soon as somebody starts, in what's supposed to be a debate, a conversation, even if it gets heated, when you start telling people to shut the fuck up, I don't know how you guys feel about this. You have put yourself in my shoes. You got, your studio, it's in your home. You got, your family inside the house, and you got, and some greaseball is going to come and tell you to shut the fuck up. And you warn them and you tell them if they're going to, if the podcast is to continue the way it is, 2 seconds later it tells you to shut the fuck up again. I mean, I'm only guessing that a lot of you would have done worse, because there's not a lot of people that are going to take that kind of disrespect or are going to be spoken to in that tone of voice. I'm certainly not going to get spoken. I know I'm a soy boy liberal, and I get triggered easily, and I'm very emotional, right? That's what the stereotype is, you know. But I mean, what does it say about Jake Vargas that, man, he got manhandled by a soy boy? That doesn't speak well. No, I'm kidding, man, bro. But let's be honest. Ain't nobody gonna take that kind of disrespect. I'm certainly not gonna take that kind of disrespect. So I escorted him out the premises, and I mean, I really have no regrets about doing that, because at the end of the day, like, I have a podcast that I'm, streaming out to people, right? And there's a lot of serious people that are coming in the next month. A lot of politicians, a lot of candidates, a lot of people who are, professionals. And when they see, shit like this, hey, shut the fuck up and fuck you. And, I was a part of it too, it's not going to work, man. It's not going to work. And so, Jake, you fucked up, man. I don't know what to tell you, bro. You got escorted out. You got fish hooked by a gay liberal, and you got manhandled off the set, man. What are you gonna do? Now a lot of people have been asking me, would you have Jake back on? Maybe. I mean, I don't. I guarantee you, he's gonna think twice next time, because next time he knows I'll throw him like a javelin over the fence. But I don't know. There's something I got to think about. I mean, maybe I'll have him on again. Maybe I won't. We'll see. But once the entire thing, you know what? Let me just play this because I know we did comment on this afterwards.
Don't disrespect me. Don't fucking touch me, bro. I'm telling you to get the fuck out of here. Be serious, bro. You got my phone? Fuck out of here. Get my phone right now.
You're the little one in.
Who's the last?
I think you are.
And so we come back and we talk about it a little bit.
Oh my god, I'm not sure.
All right, guys, we're live. I usually don't kick motherfuckers out, but you're not gonna come to my place and fucking disrespect me like that. This is not gonna happen.
I'm always for a healthy debate, but there was like a line that he just kept. I was like, yo, man, like, I'm about to take the shoe off and like fucking hit him in the face with it. So I'm glad that handled itself.
There's a certain line, like, we're debating. A lot of these issues are fucking heated. Like, there's a lot of disagreement. I get it. But when you start telling people to shut the fuck up, nobody can tell me to shut the fuck up in my house, and I can take the fuck out.
I just found it interesting that I was expected to know stats and sources and all this stuff on the fly. Although,
yeah, guys, nobody's gonna tell me to shut the fuck up in my own house. That's just not gonna happen. I'll put foot to ass real quick. Sorry.
I will say that I feel like I knew quite a bit of stats and stuff that were legit and couldn't argue about. Like, I was in debate in high school, you know what I mean? Like, I learned how to do Frederick Douglass style debates, and nothing about what he was doing was anything like that. I was just like, I'm just gonna
It's a tactic that they've been using. I debated some guy named Rob Noor recently, and they do the same thing, and they try to get you, well, you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, here's where I mentioned that I debated the Quinchinchita, Rob Noor. Quinchinchita just means bullshitter in Spanish. Rob Noor is just like a really, really solid bullshitter. But that's the extent of his skill. Is just, he's adapted the art of bullshit. And so, these kind of, they study strategy as opposed to like actually knowing shit. And so they try to get you like in, they try to get you in these types of like, they try to get you to trip over things you're saying, like Jake was doing earlier with Amanda, trying to pin her down, like not knowing the specific, city and what state where the crime rate of like in Ottawa or some bullshit. I don't know.
Getting the specific stat of this policy that you're stating, and so
yeah,
the entire conversation,
talking about,
it gets redirected to that as opposed to the overall point that you're trying to make.
Which is,
right?
I mean, we just keep doing it over and over and over again, and that's why, like, I'll play to your game, right? I'll play and bring up. I'm fully aware that the issue is not white straight males, right? There's not like a white straight maleism that is happening in America that's causing. Like, I'm fully aware that that is not the case. But when you're gonna solely identify a terrorist by one identifier, but not fail to recognize identifiers of the rest of the terrorists that have been plaguing this country, it's just I can't with the hot topic bullshit that doesn't have any merit. I can't do it. I'm pretty clear with you. I don't do bullshit. You know what I mean? Like, that's why part of the reason I was just like, I'm just gonna let him talk. I can't argue with illegitimate bullshit. I'm not going to warrant a succinct response.
If it wasn't clear enough, like, I don't do the bullshit either. You know what I mean? And like, listen,
no, I was honestly, I will say that we better be glad that these were bottles, because when he stood up, I was like, oh, it has been a few years since I've done it. And I was like, by the time, like, if I open this and I'll end up like kidding. So I just was like, just sit here and exhibit restraint and wait for you to finish leaving, because
yeah, on his way out, he's like, it's still the liberals in his feelings. No, the fucking liberals want to kick your ass.
I will say, like, if we're talking about feelings and getting emotional, like, who are the people here that got the most heated, that were constantly in there huffing and puffing and constantly, you know what I mean, needing to imbibe with no sources, with no legitimacy? I can sit here and like continue to tell me what you're telling me, but if you can't, I'm gonna get you the fuck out of here. There you go. I'm getting kicked out because the liberal podcast is in its feelings.
Here, one last time. Let's see this.
I'm gonna get you the fuck out of here.
Hey, one last time.
I'm getting kicked out because the liberal podcast is in its feelings. Hey, he's literally attacking. Hey, don't touch me, bro. Fucking respect. You're my house. Touch me, bro. You're my fucking house. Touch me, bro. Get the fuck away from me. Don't disrespect me. Don't.
Oh! All right, guys. Subscribe, RC3 Podcast on YouTube. Check us out on TikTok, RC3 Podcast. And we'll see you guys every Saturday. I might start doing a lot of these like lives in between. So hang out. Tell me what you think. Talk shit in the comment section. I love it when you guys talk shit to me. It's like fucking protein in my muscles. All the shit talking. I love it. Bring it on. MAGA. Bye, guys.